everybody. My name is Sue Coontz, and I'm the president of the San Antonio Storytellers Association. We have a wonderful handful of folks here live at O'Prince Flooring in San Antonio, but we also have fabulous Zoomers online that, because of our recording, you'll be able to see all of the tellers, and then we'll try to take a picture of everyone who's here tonight. So we'll put it all on our Facebook page, the San Antonio Storytellers. We always meet the very first Wednesday of each month, and it is hot as heck right here in San Antonio, but we've got the coolest storytellers tonight. In fact, we should probably almost have some scary tales so that we can get those goosebumps going. So Tim, if one comes to your mind, just let me know. We're going to go ahead and get started because we have a full house and other folks talking on Zoom right now. I'd like to introduce to you Sarah Hardy. She has a few very short poems that she would like to share. And Sarah, please go ahead and tell everyone who you are, because we love having these young folks come. All right, let's give Sarah a big hand.
Good evening. I'm Sarah Hardy. I'm a French and art teacher here in San Antonio, and I love to write, and especially poetry. So these are a couple of what I think are my funny poems. The first one is called Foreign Palette, and just a little preview. We've had 3 foreign exchange students, and we're about to get our 4th foreign exchange student in 1 week. Wow. So this is a little bit about our foreign exchange students and food. My foreign kids love to eat. They are after the American treat. Love sweets and deep fried delights. Into chocolate chip cookies take deep bites. With food dislikes above all the rest, peanut butter they do detest. Feel nuts should not be in a spread and slapped between slices of bread. Root beer my Spaniard doesn't drink. Tastes like medicine, so you think. I kind of understand his view. Cherry reminds me of cough syrup too. So my second poem also has to do with food. We were challenged, so I do this thing in April called I write a poem every day of the month of April. Your wife does it too. It's called National Poetry Writing Month. And so on one day we were challenged to write a 2-part poem on food. So I called it Lettuces, and this is part 1. Diet food, rabbit food. You're not on most people's go-to list, but you serve a purpose, and it's an important one. Could we have a tossed salad without you? Phytonutrients, beta-carotene, folate. Yes, yes, we know you're important. But please, do I have to read another article on the benefits of kale? Though technically it's cruciferous, that's and part 2. But you're kind of funny too. You romaine on my grocery list. When it comes to taste, you butter, add some dressing, or no one will eat you. Head lettuce, as if you'd be called foot lettuce, and cabbage, the stuff of legends. Mon petit chou, your eyes are like limpid pools. But I'm getting carried away. The name arugula just makes me laugh. I know it's time to end. May I just say, lettuce, turnip, and beef.
And I love peanut butter. Oh my gosh, I love peanut butter. And boy, do I have stories about that sticking to the tip of my. Without further ado, though, we have another fabulous storyteller. And this young man, he doesn't even live here in San Antonio, but I think he's also getting the heat and just recovering. So we're just so excited that Chester Weems is with us tonight. COVID has hit San Antonio pretty hard, and it looks like it's hitting Oklahoma too. But Chester, you look awful good. So I think we're going to have you tell away.
Well, Sue, we need to check your vision because you used the word young in there. And so let's work on that a little bit.
Yeah.
I just finishing up COVID. I haven't tested today, but luckily it's the second time, and I feel pretty good. Dangerously good. Got a lot of stuff the last few days. Hey, I'm a little intimidated. We got some really good group here tonight, and I'm really kind of using you guys. I hope you don't mind too bad. I don't have a story as such. I have a skeleton of a story I'm working on, and so I kind of wanted to try out a few elements of it just to see what the reaction is. I found out if I do that a couple of times, then I'll realize that's really dumb. You don't need to do that, but whatever it is. It's about growing up in Western Oklahoma. I'm from a community called Sealing, and I was thinking about when you're a kid out in the country, even though you're out in the country, you feel associated to the town, even though the town is really small. And so you feel, Sealing is where my roots are. Hill out west of town is where they really go down deep in the dirt. But going to town was kind of a big deal. And so to describe the town of Sealing, you got to understand, Sealing has been between 900 and 1,000 people for the last 50 years. That's kind of the way it is. It consisted of one main street with one main block, with all the businesses on each side. And then as you go north and south of that main block, there are more businesses, but as you know, they kind of thin out and so on. So in the story I'm trying to develop, I'm trying to look at different pieces that I realize there's some interesting things. For example, on the main street, there was a drugstore that had a fountain in it, and the kids like to go in there and you'd have ice cream or whatever. And on the east end of the drugstore up high was a moose head. I never could figure out why Western Oklahoma, a business, would have a moose head in the drugstore. I never asked anybody that, and I wish I had. It's one of those things you wish you'd found out. But I've always wondered where the moose came from. Now, in the same drugstore, there was a man who lived under it. And he was a kind of a town character. He was a man of limited ability, but he was kind of beloved in the character. He used to help out, but he went down this stairway underneath the building, and it was really mysterious. His name was Percy, and he passed away many years ago. But occasionally my wife on Memorial Day would put flowers on his, because my Aunt Bee would also put flowers on his grave. He's just kind of an interesting guy. But the thing I wanted to share with you most is, as you go north from the main block, in the second block, there was a bank corner, and then 2 or 3 buildings. And then there was a small standalone building that's still there today. I think today it has I don't know if it's a tax office or an insurance agency, something like that. But when I was a kid, the fascinating thing about it was a shoe shop. And I'm not talking about a place where you buy shoes. I'm talking about a place, you remember how they actually had people that used to be able to repair shoes? And if you've ever walked in a place with leather, have you ever noticed when you do that, the smell of leather is absolutely wonderful. And you'd walk into this little place and there was stuff everywhere. You walk down in front of the counters and the smell of that leather was it was wonderful. I just loved being in there as a kid. And there was a counter there, and behind the counter, he'd have his big machines. Sometimes you're real lucky you got to watch those big machines would be sewing on the shoes. It'd be, like bump, 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 real slow sewing. That was interesting. And there'd be a couple of pots around that were heated. I guess they held the glue. I think they called it horsehide glue. I'm not sure of the terminology. But the thing that is still with me today, behind the counter, up high, higher than an adult's head for a kid, there was a sign. And the best I can remember, this sign was kind of blue sign, and I don't know if it was metal, cardboard, whatever it was, but it had yellow or gold lettering on it. And it made such an impression on me as a kid that it's something I kind of try to live by today. The sign said, "I had no shoes and I complained until I met a man who had no feet." And that's something that has stayed with me forever. And that is the memory I wanted to share with you tonight. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alive.
Very touching. Absolutely. I think a lot of us have read signs like that, and they just stayed with us, or quotes. They hit us at the right time And then they change for us even years down the road. So thank you so much for that, Chester. And I'm so glad you're feeling better. That's awesome.
I wonder if Percy knew the origin of the moose.
Ah, I don't know. I was wondering if Percy knew the origin of the moose. So we'll have to investigate. Our next teller is also on Zoom. David's coming to us all the way from Austin, Texas. And it's always nice to have David here. David's traveled his stories literally around the world, virtually and by airplane. So David can tell you more about that, but he's certainly one to listen to. He is amazing. David, you've got the stage.
There we go.
Perfect.
There we go. There we go. Okay. I unmute myself. Okay, fine. I know I look sort of mysterious in this strange, the overhead light in my bedroom's not working, so it sort of adds an atmosphere to the story I'm going to tell. Internationally, well, we'll get back to that later because I could go on for hours and show you thousands of pictures and things like this. But enough of that. The story I'm going to tell you, it has many variations, and this is the variation that I know. It's the man who searched for truth. Well, I will tell you right now, my friends, for my friends you are, that there was a man, there's always a man in these stories, you know, who decided that he was going to go out and search for truth. And the reason he was going to search for truth was he was tired of being told one thing, to be found out that it was actually another thing, to be found out that it was actually another thing, and on and on and on. And it got to the point where he could not deal with it anymore. So he packed up his bags and he turned to his wife and said, wife, yeah, what do you want? I'm going off to search for truth. Well, have a good time. Don't hurt yourself. Wear your hat, things like that. She sort of stickered to herself because she figured he would probably be back within the hour or by supper time. But so he went off and he began walking and hiking and looking around, and he kept walking and he kept walking and he kept walking, and soon he came to another village. Imagine that. And he said, hi there. Excuse me, I'm a visitor here. I'm looking, does truth live here? Oh, yes, it lives here. No, oh, come. You may stay with us for the next 2 or 3 days, and we'll show you how truth. So that's what he did. He went and he stayed with people. And at first it was new place, but then he found out that it was the same. One thing was really another thing, and people were talking about people behind their back, even though they were being very nice to them face to face. So he said, no, I have to leave. Truth is not here. He packed up his bags, thanked his hosts, and went on and kept walking. And he kept walking, and he came upon another village. Imagine that. And he said, oh, hi there. I'm a visitor here. Does truth live here? Oh, yes. Truth does live here. We can show you. No, I just want to know if truth lives here. I would like to stay for 2 or 3 days. Do you have a hotel? Oh, no, you come and stay with us. No, come and stay with us. The people were very friendly. And it was fine for the first day or day and a half. And then he heard the same thing. One thing really meant another thing that was really about another thing. And people were talking about people behind their backs, though being very nice to them to their face. And he said, I must leave. I must go. I can't stay here. So he thanked his hosts, picked up his bags, and continued walking. And this time he walked for quite a long time. And he came upon another village, a very quaint, small village. And he said, hi, I'm a visitor here. Is there a place to stay? And, oh, yes, there is. Oh, why are you here, we may ask? Oh, I'm looking for truth. And does truth live here? Oh, yes, truth lives here. She's up in that cave, up on that mountain over there. It's a happy little path to go that you could go see her. So he stayed with some friends, new friends, that is. And the next day, he took his staff and he started walking up that hill, up that mountainside, up that path. And there were many challenges. many challenges and many stubbed toes, but he finally came to a cave. And it was not one of these ugly caves where you think you're sitting on the floor. It was actually had a door. So he knocked, and the voice said, "Oh, do come in, do come in. I'm here." So he opened the door, and he walked in. And it was very nice, very comfortable. And there in front of him, with her back to him, he saw a woman sitting in front of the fire. "Oh, come and sit, come and sit. I'm so nice to have visitors." So he said, "Ah, this must be truth." So he went and he sat and he sat and he faced her, and oh, she was not what he thought she was. He thought, since it was truth, she was going to be the most beautiful creature, the most gorgeous creature, shining beauty and truth. And it turns out that she had a very, very old face, one or two warts and moles with hair, but her eyes, oh, her eyes were so happy and joyful. And she said, "Sit. Yes, I am truth. Will you stay and learn?" And he decided to do so. And every day she taught him. She showed him what truth was and what truth wasn't. She showed him how to discern the truth. And he thought that during this time she would maybe change her face, but it stayed the same. And after a year, he figured it was time to go home because his wife was probably still trying to fix supper. And he said, "I must leave now. And thank you for letting me stay here. Thank you for teaching me." And he gave her a big hug, and she kissed him on the cheek. And you know how friends are. And he got up to leave. And when he got to the door, he said, "Oh, one more thing. Is there something you would like for me to tell everyone?" And there was a pause. And she turned and said, "Oh, yes. Tell them I'm beautiful."
I love that version of truth, and truth is beautiful. Thank you so much, David. Well, our next storyteller is also on Zoom tonight. In fact, she's living in West Virginia. And we love it when Judy Turowski comes to share her stories with us. She is amazing. In fact, she's got this huge Irish festival of which she'll be telling Irish tales at, and I so wish I could be there. And I don't know what tales you're going to be telling, what tale you're going to be sharing with us tonight, Judy, but I wanted to mention that because it is amazing. If you are on Facebook and you see this Irish festival, it's much larger than the one we have even here in Dallas. It is phenomenal. But with that said, Judy tells so many different places. We're hoping that we can get Judy down here to Texas so that she can enjoy our Texas Storytelling Festival. So we'll see if we can get her down here. But in the meantime, Judy, you got the stage.
Thank you so much, Sue. I know it's very hot there in Texas right now, but I know the hospitality is warm. So I would really love to come down sometime. Well, the story I'm telling tonight is actually from Iceland. And it's the old woman and the sheep. There was an old woman who had a flock of 12 sheep. And every day she took them up high on the mountainside where the grass was sweet and green so the sheep could graze all day. And then she would take them back down home. Well, after a while, the years started to add up and the mountains seemed to be getting higher. And it was becoming rather difficult for her to take the sheep up on the mountain every day. So she decided to hire someone to take the sheep up on the mountain for her. She posted a want ad in the newspaper and she got 3 applicants. She looked them over and decided to have some personal interviews. Well, the first applicant was a bear. And when he came into the room to meet her, she looked at his big claws and his big sharp teeth. And she thought, oh dear, he's going to be awfully scary. But well, he applied, so I'll see what he can do. She said, "Mr. Bear, please tell me, how would you pull my sheep?"
Sheep, come on, sheep. Sheep, I'm going to take real good care of you, sheep. We're going to go up the mountain. We'll come down the mountain. I'm going to take real good care of you, sheep. I will.
Oh dear, she thought, he's going to be much too scary, those teeth and everything. Next, well, the next applicant was a wolf. And he came in the room and she looked at those big sharp teeth and she thought, oh my, he might be kind of scary, maybe scarier than the bear, but he applied, so I'll see what he has to say. So she said, okay, Mr. Wolf, how would you call my sheep? Come on, sheep. I will take you up the mountain, sheep. I will take good care of you. Sheep, I will take you up the mountain. I will come down the mountain and I will take very good care of you. Oh dear, the woman said, no, I'm afraid you won't do. You'll scare my sheep. The third was a fox. When he came in the room, oh my goodness, what a gentleman. He strode up to the woman and bowed to her and he kissed her hand. And he was just so gentlemanly. And she thought, oh my goodness, he's wonderful. Oh, tell me, Mr. Fox, how would you take care of my sheep? How would you call my sheep? Come, little sheep. Oh, come with me, little sheep. I will take such good care of you. We'll go up the mountain together. You'll have all that good grass to eat to make you nice and fat. And I'll bring you back down the mountain. Oh, little sheep, I'll take such good care of you because I'm so fond of you. Well, excuse me. That's perfect. The old woman said, you are hired. Well, the fox started to take the sheep up the mountain. Well, the first day he went up, there were 12 sheep. When they came back down, there were 11 sheep. The next day when they went up, there were 11 sheep. When they came back down, there were 10. This went on for a couple of days until she was down to 6 sheep. And by this point, she was starting to notice something suspicious. So she decided to follow him up the mountain to see what he was up to. So she waited till he took the 6 sheep up on the mountains and she followed him up. When she got up there, he was asleep. He was curled up. And as she got a little bit closer, she got a good look at his muzzle. And I'm sorry to say, there were little bits of wool in his whiskers and little bits of sheep. And she picked up a broom that was there and she started beating him with it. Just leave here, you're eating my sheep, you're a horrible person. And he got up and started to run. And she picked up a bucket of milk that was there. Why there was a bucket of milk on this mountain, I have no idea. But she picked up this bucket, threw it at him, and it caught the tip of his tail. And that is why, to this day, foxes have white tips on the end of their tail.
Now we know. That's always been a question on my mind. Now we know.
Now you know.
Poor things. Oh my goodness. That's a great story. Wonderful telling. Thank you so much, Judy.
Thank you.
And we love it every time you come. By the way, for all of you who are new to us, thank you so much and welcome. We do meet once a month, the very first Wednesday of each month. So we love to have you each and every time. Our next teller is here live. She's come all the way from Bernie, Texas, which is probably a good 40-minute drive from here. And we love to have Susan Whipple. She is one of our board members right here with San Antonio Storytellers. And we love her stories. Come on up here, Susan.
I'd like to take you back to the 1850s, to the era of the legendary sailing ships. This was also the time of the gold rush in California, when people from all over the country were enthralled with the idea of traveling to California, finding gold, and becoming enormously wealthy. Traveling around the country by wagon it was really difficult. These people would leave their homes, their farms, their jobs, and they would travel to the jumping off points, one of which was St. Louis, Missouri. And there they would buy a wagon and a team and all the provisions they needed for a long journey. And they would meet with others who formed wagon trains and travel out to the gold fields. But it wasn't easy. They traveled through vast prairies and huge mountains, and they encountered bad weather and disease and accidents and whatnot. And many people died along the way. But the other alternative was to take a sailing ship, and those ships would leave from the east coast of the United States from Boston or New York, and they would come all the way down the east side of the United States and Central America, and all the way down to the tip of South America, where it's Cape Horn. You may know that Cape Horn is noted for rocks and ice and bad weather. They'd round the Horn and then they'd go back up on the west side. And these voyages, by the time they got to the gold fields, could take 200 days. 200. That's huge. Well, they also had their problems, of course, with the weather, and the conditions were filthy and they had bad food and many people died of disease. So neither choice was really very good. Another thing that was going on at the same time was that women were not well educated. Now they did teach them to read and write, but they didn't go any further than that because mainly what women's role in life in society at that time was to get married, to have children, and to take care of the farm and the home. And what did you need science and math for? Well, there also weren't very many women who had major responsibilities outside the home, except in rare cases. And one rare case was a woman named Eleanor Creasy. She was born and raised on the coast of Massachusetts, and her father was a ship's captain. And she learned, he taught her how to navigate. Now, navigation is the method by which you can take a ship across vast oceans from one port to another safely and in the right place. And the thing was that navigation involved a lot of math, but Eleanor loved math. It was also astronomy, and weather, and currents, and all these other things, and a device called just used it to sight on the stars, morning and evening. And once you got your fixation on the stars, you could go back to your books and your charts and your lists and do all the math and figure out the proper course. Nowadays, of course, we have GPS. Everybody knows what that is. Well, Eleanor, as she was growing up, wished all her young life that she would marry a ship's captain and go on the voyages with him. This was not unusual. Many captains took their wives with them, and sometimes the voyages lasted maybe 5 years. But the women on those ships generally would serve as nurses. When Eleanor married Captain Josiah Creasy, she went along with him, not as a nurse, but as the Well, going back to 1850, there was a ship that was built in Boston, and it was called the Flying Cloud. It was a sleek ship. It was 235 feet long and only 41 feet at the beam, which is the middle of the ship. It had 3 enormous masts that carried huge amounts of sail. And all these things were consistent with speed. It was called the Flying Cloud. When the ship was built for $50,000, which was an enormous amount of money in those days. And when it went out on its sea trials and came back, everybody said, never seen a ship built so fast. And it was beautiful. And Captain Creasy was asked to be. Well, Captain Creasy, owner of the navigator, passengers, crew, and cargo left New York Harbor in June of 1851, bound for the gold fields. Now, I think I never said, I didn't say, those trips took 200 days. It's a long time. So they went, and Eleanor found the way to go, of course, and they did fine. And she did very, very well. She was always right on track. But if there were a storm and she couldn't fix on the stars morning and evening, she had to navigate a different way. And that was called dead reckoning. You need to know the ship's last position, and you had to figure out the currents and the speed of the ship. And there was a lot of math again there too, but fortunately she was in her element. And she always got them through. She always found the right path for them. She got them through safely. Well, they rounded the Cape during such a storm. Now, when there was a storm like that, the captain would be on deck, steering, and he would call down below her below decks for a new bearing, and she would draw her magic, her map, and whatnot, and she'd pass it back up to him on the deck. But as they had a terrible storm going around Cape Horn, when the skies finally cleared, she was right on course, 8 miles away from the dangerous rocks. Well, they got to San Francisco in 89 days for a new river. And because their progress was telegraphed ahead of their arrival, there were hundreds of people waiting for them and cheering, because this was a wonderful thing that they had done. 3 years later, they took the same trip, and they cut their time off by 13 hours. And that record stood for 135 years. Wow. What a triumph of maritime history for the captain, for the navigator, and for the flying.
That was amazing, and I got goosebumps. So yes, we got goosebumps for
It's
tonight.
history.
It is, and it's wonderful history. Yes, and thank God for folks like that, because anyone who knows Sue Coons knows that if I don't have a GPS, I have a new place to live every night. Thank the good Lord. I can follow a map going, but coming back, my brain doesn't work that way. I don't know, very odd, but thank goodness for GPSs, and thank goodness for history. All right. So we have another fabulous storyteller on Zoom tonight, and I'm just so glad to see her, my very good friend and friend of several folks here, by the way, Donna Ingham. And Donna actually lives in Bertram, Texas, which isn't too far from Austin. Lots of cool things go on in Bertram. She lives on 22 acres of fine land and wonderful animals and best family ever. But Donna also has fabulous stories because of her family and because of her tall tales and lives. Who knows what Donna's going to share with us tonight? You got the stage, Donna.
Thank you, Sue. It's good to be here. When I was listening to Judy's story, it reminded me of, well, first of all, you're right about our populating our 22 acres with lots of livestock and what have you. We had family friends out here much of the day, well, actually relatives, who were fascinated by the cows and the donkey and all of Stephanie's chickens and particularly the peacocks, as well as the wildlife. You know, we've got cottontails and we've got all kinds of birds, and that's what I want to talk about is the bird, because Judy's story reminded me of another of those how things came to be stories, many of which come from the native people. Tim Tingle tells a number of those kinds of stories, and I came across one years ago, actually before we moved to the 22 acres, we lived on Lake Travis, and my husband Jerry and I we grew up in the panhandle of Texas, where of course we don't have very many trees and not much water. So when we moved to Central Texas and we were actually living on Lake Travis, which back then had water in it, and we had all those live oak trees. And so we would sit down by the lake every evening, just marvel at all this. And one evening we were down by the lake and sitting under some of those trees, and it got really dark. And all of a sudden we just sensed something go by. We didn't see it, we didn't hear it. We just knew something went by, and it didn't frighten us, but we were curious. So I turned around and looked, and on one of the low branches of one of those live oak trees was an owl. We don't have owls here on the 22 acre. We have hawks. We don't have owls, at least not any we've seen. Anyway, I was curious, as one is, to know what kind of owl it was. Actually, there were two of them. They were just kind of looking down at us like, "What are you doing out this time of night?" And so I did what you do when you want to find something else. I went up, I didn't Google it. I went up, I actually looked in a book, in our Texas bird book. And I flipped over to the section on owls. I found out that they were screech owls, but I also found a story. Isn't it amazing where you sometimes find stories? Now, this was a Texas bird book. It's not a Texas story, at least not Texas native people. It's a story that comes from the Iroquois Nation, which is way up in the Northeast. But that story, as stories do move, it moved all the way down into Texas, at least in this Texas bird book. And it is an explanation of how owl came to be. And the story is that the Raweno, who is the maker of everything for the Iroquois, was hard at work making rabbit, while over here on a stump, not really made yet, just kind of a lump on a stump, was owl. But owl could see, and owl could hear, and owl could talk, and that talking is what got him into trouble. And I don't know whether talking ever got you in trouble, but it has gotten me into trouble. He had a bad case of the I wants. Now, we've all had those, especially when you're a kid and you're walking down the toy aisle and you say, "I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that." Only Al was thinking about what he wanted to look like when it was his turn to get made. And he started telling Roweno about it. He said, "Dude, I want a long neck. I want a long neck like swan. And I want a long beak. I want a long beak like heron. And I want plumes. I want plumes like heron." Well, Roweno turned and said, "Be quiet and turn around," because, well, no one was supposed to watch Roweno work. But do you suppose Owl listened and minded? No, he did not. He kept on, he persisted. He said, "Ooh, and I want red feathers, I want red feathers, just like cardinal." And that did it. Roweno put Rabbit aside, turned around, picked up Owl, and just kind of squished his head right down into his neck. And then he shook Owl just enough so that Owl's eyes got big with fright. Then he tweaked up those two funny looking little owl ears. And then Roweno reached down and picked up a great big handful of mud, and he started rubbing it all over Owl's body so that Owl was kind of a dull, dingy, gray color. And then, because Roweno liked to work during the day, he made it so that Owl was awake only at night. Only then did he release Owl, who flew off moaning, "Ooh, ooh, 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 ooh." And that, according to the Iroquois, is how owl came to be.
Perfect story. Loved your facial expressions. So wonderful. And we do actually have two owls in the top of our live oak tree at home right now. I don't know why, because it's too hot for birds. But I do know that the mice that we had, we don't have any. So we're doing really well.
Karen.
All right, thank you so much. We have a live storyteller here tonight. Her first time was visiting us last month. And we'd love to have Deborah Hurst come on up and share her tale with us. How about a hand for Deborah? This is your first time. We have little X here. And then every once in a while, look right there. And then you've got your friends over there also.
Okay, again, my name is Deborah. Anyway, this is the Adventures of Troop 176. It was my Girl Scout troop that I was a co-leader, and our main leader was a lady named Anne. This lady was an adventurer like you would not believe. Then there was Karen, and what our troop did, unlike most other Girl Scout troops, was we loved to go camping and canoe. And this is the tale of one of our canoeing trips. We were supposed to go canoe the San Marcos River. And the night before, we had our meeting and got all of our stuff together. And we wake up that Saturday morning, and it is thundering and lightning and raining like we're going. Something like that, which we can have now. But anyway, my husband turns to me and he says, "Surely, y'all aren't going anywhere today." And I said, "I'm sure we're not." And so I get up and I call Karen, and call Ann, and I said, "Ann, the thing's off for today, right?" And she says, "No, because we had 12 girls that were going with us, and 4 of the mothers and fathers had brought their girls over and took off going out of town. So we had 4 extra girls that we had to do something with. So we called San Marcos, and the guy up in San Marcos said, "No, you can't go over. It's you just can't." He said, "But I hear that the Medina is fine. There's no rain. Y'all go up there." So we take off going to the Medina, and we get up there, and he was right. It's beautiful. We put in our canoes. We take the canoe launch down to the end where we're going to get out, and they leave the other car up, and where we started. And so we get in, and we're just going down, and it's just so nice, and it's so just nice and slow. We're moving. And then all of a sudden, the water starts getting higher and higher and higher, and faster and faster and faster. And so all of a sudden, me and my daughter are over. But we knew what to do. We didn't panic. So we wore life vests all the time, all of our girls did. And so we stuck our fingers in our canoes just like this. We leaned back like we were in a rocking chair, kicked our feet up so that you could kick anything out of the front. And we're going down the river, me and my daughter, and we're just like, this is nice. Then ahead, we can see the big cypress tree has fallen across the river. And we were like, no big deal, we'll just go under the tree. The canoe, we didn't know where it was. So we're going along, and all of a sudden we get pretty close to the tree. We can't hardly see the tree anymore. That's how high the water had come and that fast. So we get up maybe 10 feet from it, and it feels like somebody from below us reached out, grabbed my ankles, and pulled us straight down. And we ended up rolling around and around and around that cypress tree. And I don't even know how many times I went around it. And all of a sudden it spit me out. And I went up about 10 feet in the air and landed. And so I'm in the water and I'm like, oh, okay, where's Sabrina? I don't see her. At this point, I'm praying. I'm like, Lord, I cannot go home without this jacket because my husband will kill me. And just then, she spits up out of it and she's like, falls down into the water. I grab the nearest thing I can on the side. And I reach out and she has a pigtail. I grab it. I pulled her with all my strength and we get over to the side and we're crawling up on the banks, exhausted, scared. And the other members of the party show up and go, oh, well, we gotta get us back in the water. And I'm like, oh no, we're not getting back in the water. Get that. But they said, oh no, we gotta get the canoe. So we have to grab rocks, fill up the darn canoe to get it heavy enough to go under the tree. And then we get that out, take the rocks out. Well, we gotta go on down the river. We've lost all of our food. So we get back in. We're going along. Everybody else is going off. So, but we made it to the end, and everybody made it safely. Then we get out, and everybody's lost all their food. And then we're cold and we're wet, and we're like, okay, there's the camper. We can get into the camper and go back and get the other vehicle. Karen had left the keys in the other car. So, they eventually got it, and we made it to the campgrounds. And next time, part 2.
Pictures and Disney will be up on DVD anytime now. That was a great story. All right, so typically I've got a computer in front of me and I can tell what the chat is saying, but I don't have that in front of me. So I just want to make sure with John Hill, who is our host, is there anyone else that's been chatting that would like to share a story? And if you did not place anything in the chat, you're welcome to raise your hands. We do have 2 more tellers, possibly 3, but did I see Tim's hand go up? Yes, I did. All right. Scotty, a small story. Got it. Why, my Japanese came right back. Just quick. I can't believe that. All right. Those of you who don't know Tim Tingle.
Yeah. And next?
Not yet. Yes, you're going to be next. So don't talk. Tim is a talker, and he loves to share who he is. He's Choctaw. He also is an amazing storyteller of all legends and many ghost stories. He has his own storytelling guild, the Doc Moore, the first ever Doc Moore Storytelling Guild. And yes, there he is. And they meet the 3rd Thursday of each month. And I love attending, and I suspect anyone else who would like to attend, we'll make sure we get you that link. But Tim is amazing, and I kind of pushed him into telling, I'm so glad you're going to share a tale. So without further ado, Tim Tingle.
Thank you. And I didn't really feel pushed into telling it all. And it is a short story that I've never told before. It's a true story. And I felt somehow inspired to tell it by the other storytellers, wonderful storytellers. When I grew up on Austin Street. The street was about maybe half a mile long. The highway that went from Hobby Airport, which was the original, it was the Houston International Airport at the time. It was about half a mile from where we lived. And then a highway carried you on to the city. But I lived down Austin Street, and there were only 3 houses on Austin Street, and we were the only one with indoor plumbing. The others had actually outhouses. I'm old. And then Freeway Manor built up, and it was the first suburbs, and it had paved streets and gutters and just houses all over the place. But still, our street just, there are always cars going by, but no one built on our street. There was a convenience store that opened up not too far from us, just across the prairie. We wouldn't even walk on the street. There weren't sidewalks on Austin Street. We'd cross the prairie about maybe between a quarter and a half a mile to the convenience store. And I'll never forget one of the most influential things that has ever happened to me my entire life. It was maybe 9 o'clock at night, and the store closed at 10. And we were supposed to be in bed, and the TV's off by that time. I crawled out of the window, triple bunk bed, and I lived on the bottom bunk, slept on the bottom bunk. I didn't live there, but I crawled out of the window. I had gone to bed with my clothes on, so all I had to do was toss the shoes out the window and put the shoes on. My mother had turned the light off. My dad was working overseas, so I didn't have to worry about him. So I made my way across the prairie and into the store. And I kind of walked around the store, just kind of looking at this and looking at that. And the lady there at the cash register, there was no one else in the store. And then someone else came into the store. And when they got ready to check out, I walked to the other side of the store, and it was kind of a circular place where the cash register was, and she could wait on people here and turn around and wait on people here. And there was a lot of candy bars kind of stacked. And I picked up a candy bar, and she was cashing someone out on the other side. And I just kind of turned around and didn't say anything, just put my head down. And I was about to walk out of the store when the person that she had checked out, he was a man, he was maybe in his 40s. He had seen me apparently. And as I started to open the door, he gripped my hand, and he turned me around. And he said, "Let's go out on the sidewalk." But he said it quietly. So we stepped out on the sidewalk, and he still had me by the hand, but not gripping me tight, just kind of like a mild handshake or something. And he said, "If you give me that candy bar, I'll go put it back for you." And I looked at him, and I knew I was caught. He could have reported me. My parents could have found out. I nodded to him, and I gave him the candy bar. And he said, "No, go have a good evening." And he went back in the store, and I was still looking through the glass door, and he didn't say anything to the cash register. He just quietly put the candy bar back and said, Well, I guess I'd better go on. Good night. And he drove away. And the next week at school, it got to be Friday, and my best friend, who lived in one of the houses in the suburbs, and I'd never really, he came over. We had the basketball goal at my house, so we'd play sports at my house, and we'd go, but he invited me over to spend the night at his house for the first time. And so I went over there, and he said, come on early. We have dinner about 6 o'clock, and you can have dinner with us. And so I did. And there was his mom and his 2 sisters and David, myself. There was an empty chair. And he said, oh, my dad hadn't got home from work yet. And we said the prayer and started to pass the food around and eat. And then the door opened. And the fellow that had seen me try to steal the candy bar from the store came in. It was David's dad. And he sat down, and it happened to be right next to me. And I leaned back, and I kind of looked at him and kind of turned away. And I was about to, whatever he said, I was getting ready to get up and dash away. I was terrified. I was just a kid. And he said, well, pass me the meatloaf. And he got his plate full. And then he reached over and he touched me on the same place where he had grabbed my hand. And he said, I wasn't here when the prayer was said, but I'd like to say a little prayer. And he gripped me by the hand, and everybody closed their eyes. And he said, God bless this food, Lord, and God bless every one of us, and forgive us our sins, as we know you do. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he nodded, and I nodded, and I knew that he would never tell anyone about what he had seen. But it changed my life. It changed my life. I was never even tempted to pick up anything that I wasn't due and walk away with it. And he died years ago, but I send my blessings to Mr. Burton. Thank you.
That was, everything happens for a reason. And we know you as Honest Tim. That's what we let's see, it's 7:38. It looks like we're gonna have time just for one more tale. So Shane, come back for sure next month, and we will definitely have you start the storytelling session off, okay? But with our very last storyteller, most of you know her, we love her, Mary Grace Kettner. She's going to be sharing a story in tribute of someone that we all love and adore, who has passed away, but I'm sure you guys will enjoy this. Mary Grace, come on up to the stage. Let's see.
I have to stand back farther than the ass because I'm very tall. The other day I was cleaning out my garage, which entails cleaning out a filing cabinet and throwing away, handouts and tests and things that I'd written when I was teaching school back in the 70s, all sorts of things. And I came across a poem that had been written by Elder Stone, who was one of our longtime leaders in SASA. And he called the poem Sassified. And it goes like this. Have you ever had the urge to tell a story, true or tall? It just stays below the surface, waiting for a wake-up call. You've been sassified. Do your friends call you a liar when you pass along some item that you picked up in your reading and you've added infinitum? You've been sassified. Do you listen to another spin a yarn or tell a story, taking notes of every sentence to reuse at a future soiree? You've been satisfied. Do you quote from Scott Fitzgerald, Dovey, Poe, and maybe others? Or even from the classics like the Karamazov brothers? You've been satisfied. When you are in a crowd of three expounding on things dramatic, do your companions realize that it's just automatic? You've been satisfied. But don't worry if there's no cure for your extreme condition. Just relax and open up and further the tradition. For you have a malady that I guess we all suffer. That story just must burst forth. You haven't any buffer. The good Lord will not castigate if you should stretch the truth or embellish someone else's tale and add to it forsooth. So jump in and tell your story. Don't ever run and hide. You're in the best of company since you've been satisfied. Oh. We see, Elder really loves Sasa, and we loved him too. Before we met him, he served in the Air Force for 20-something years and retired. And then he worked for our city Department of Parks and retired and went into storytelling with us. Over the course of the years we knew him, we got to meet his wife, Jeannie Bell. We got to meet his daughter, Cheryl, and his son, R.B. And Elder stayed busy with them, with his family, and also volunteering at the Garrow Library and at the Air Force Museum, and he was very active in his church. Well, we've been without Elder since 2015, but we do have some fond memories of it. He was the person who always came early to our meetings to set up the chairs or to make sure they were set up to his satisfaction. And he had the thankless job of being our treasurer for a number of years. And he told with us quite often. He'd come to celebration even if he wasn't telling that year and always find something to do to help out. He told with us at other little things around town, and at our Ghost Stories concert. And he was our rising star one year at the Texas Storytelling Festival. And he loved telling at the Texas Folk Festival. Well, Elder had created this little town that he called Brownwater, Texas. And he told stories there. It had some really crazy people in it. There was the Katzenjammer family, who had cats flying all over in every story that he told about them. It had the Heavens to Goodness Church in it, and the preacher there, who wasn't all that pious. And it had Ella and Sam, who ran a little cafe called the Sam and Ella Cafe. So, and then at Christmas time, he'd always tell this story about, I think it was Marvin, the little mouse, hey, Marvin, please, our voice real high. I like a little mouse. Oh, I know some of you remember. And then in the 90s, Elder started something really special. He called it Stories Galore. It was his own story circle. He had it every month on the first Sunday night of the month, and every month he had a different featured teller who was given about 45 minutes to tell a series of stories, more than you might get to tell at a group like this. And then it would turn into kind of an open storytelling style. It started out in a little coffee house on Avenue A, and that closed. And so Elder moved to a bar on St. Mary's Strip, and that closed. And then he moved to a bed and breakfast on the Riverwalk, and that closed. Elder always said he was good at seeing things off. Then it moved to the Commander's house, and it didn't really close, but it's closed for construction. And I think that may have been the tail end. of Stories Galore. So I know that if you were there, you remember the way he would end each one of his little sessions in Stories Galore. He would say, well, I'm glad y'all came tonight, and I hope you'll come back next time. But if you don't worry about it, because in this life, there's only two things to worry about, whether you eat or whether you don't. And when he said that, we would, whenever he said, there's only two things to worry about, we'd all go, oh, you know, just kind of mumble, oh, what are they talking about? And when he said what the two things were, we go, oh, yeah, something like that, just kind of mumble. So let's try that again, and you do it, okay? In this life, you've only got two things to worry about.
What's that?
Well, whether you eat or whether you don't eat.
Oh.
And if you don't eat, you've got nothing to worry about. So if you eat, you've got nothing to worry about. But if you don't eat, you've only got two things to worry about. Well, whether you live or whether you die. Well, if you live, you don't have anything to worry about. But if you die, you've only got two things to worry about. What's that? Up here and down there. Well, if you go up here, you don't have anything to worry about. If you go down there, you'll be so busy talking to all of your old storytelling friends that you won't have time to worry. I hate to say this, but I kind of hope you're talking to all your old storytelling friends wherever you are, because I plan to join you someday. Stories galore in the sky.
Amen. That was excellent. Oh, Elder, we miss you. Oh, and bring it back through the stories, through his stories. That's amazing. Well, it is right around 7:45. We finish a little bit earlier so that we can pack up and get out of this wonderful Oak Print flooring store so that they too can have a life of their own before they have to come back here tomorrow morning. So without further ado, I wanted to make sure that all the Zoomers out there, you really made our evening. Thank you so much for sharing your tales. And those of you who are listeners, all of us, thank you. We can't be telling without the listeners. You guys are magical with those smiles on your faces and your heads nodding or your facial expressions. That's what storytelling is all about. We hope you will join us next month, the very first Wednesday of September, and we will notify you. Just let us know. We're on Facebook. We are also San Antonio Storytellers at gmail.com. So you can contact us through our website also, sanantoniostorytellers.com. So I think we're good to go there. And the stories that were told tonight were simply magical, majestic, marvelous. Thank you all so very much. Have a wonderful
25 people today.
45 people.
25.
25 people, but I'll lie. 45 people, yay. Y'all can unmute, you're welcome to. If you have to go, we certainly understand. And I'm so sorry, Shane. Oh, Shane Larengo, Shane. We will have you telling in September. I hope you come back. Yay.
Yes, Lady Shiny.
All
From
right,
Taiwan.
Did we get a picture of everybody on Zoom?
I did.
Yeah, we got y'all's picture, so don't go committing any crimes or taking any candy bars. We're gonna get everyone else's picture.
Probably better if we stand up and kind of squeeze in. As long as nobody's sick. Oh, somebody said that somebody's got COVID from
Somebody has COVID?
No. Oh, we have to make 2 rooms.
You're used to that. Short people up front.
There you go. And then, thank you. All right.
Gavin?
We're gonna have much squeeze in over. Yeah, there was squeeze a little bit more. 2. Let me turn on the lights.
You're brilliant.
All right. 1, 2, 3.